Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about a movie, because that's what we do on this show. We talk about movies, older movies, typically. So this is actually just another one where we had a list to get through, that we'd kind of both, we'd both selected a bunch of movies we wanted to get through, and when we don't have like a film that's related to a new sequel coming out or something like that, or something that's timely, we just kind of alternate between our picks. And this was one of Connor's. This was another Brian De Palma film. This is the second Brian De Palma movie we've done on this show, which you hadn't seen before. Although in this case, I had seen this before on late last time.
This was a case of I bought this on Blu-ray about maybe 3.5 years ago, and I thought I really need to watch that at some point.
So yeah, this is going to be Dressed to Kill, which is one of the bigger names of De Palma's thrillers. I think. I feel like you hear about this one more often than you do your Body Double or your Obsession, or take your pick. So so we'll start spoiler free as we typically do, and we'll talk about the movie. That's what we do. That's typically how it goes. So what is Dressed to Kill? Dressed to Kill is a film, and I feel it's hard to talk about this one without spoilers actually, because it
Kind of twists and turns quite early on, doesn't it?
It does. It has an interesting structure, which we'll talk about in spoilers. I think more so than spoiler free. But it's about a married woman who is kind of sexually frustrated that she's not, she's middle aged. Her husband's maybe not doing it for her anymore. She's seen a therapist played by Michael Caine, and she has kind of a kind of random sexual encounter with a stranger, and there's a murder on the loose, and an incident takes place, and it kind of propels where the rest of the plot goes. So it's a thriller. It's who's the killer kind of idea.
Yeah.
And it is a Brian De Palma film, which means it is pretty sleazy at times. There's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of talk about sex, although this one in particular, I mean, the character's whole drive is that she's sexually frustrated and wants more of a risky sex life, and that's kind of a big part of the movie. And we're dealing with prostitutes, we're dealing with that kind of thing. There's a lot of that going on. So that is the film. So I always ask the question. I always start by asking the question. So Connor, did you enjoy Dressed to Kill?
I did. I actually enjoyed it more the longer it went on.
Okay.
Like, I was I was into it, but I was a little bit like, okay, this is it's taking time. But once we got to some of these twists and turns, it played its hand a little bit more, and I realized what it was. I think I was enjoying it more then.
It is definitely a film of two halves, because it's very similar to Psycho in terms of its structure.
Yeah.
Where you kind of follow one thing for about half the movie, and then it drastically shifts past that.
Yeah.
Which is why we're being very cagey about our spoilers here, because once it shifts, like, it kind of,
Yeah, we can talk about the first half, all right,
to an
for the
extent,
most
yeah.
part.
But once you get to the second half, it's a completely different movie. Then you can't really talk about it. So
And this is the thing where I found I enjoyed the second half a lot more than the first.
I enjoyed the first half. It was definitely a slower build, but there's some nice, like, there's a very nice chase sequence, which is not a traditional chase sequence, because it's more about uh, not quite stalking, but she sees like a man she's attracted to, and it's kind of this weird encounter where she kind of feels something, then she backs out, and then she wants back in again, and she's kind of following him through this art gallery, and there's a lot of just missing him as he's walking through the next thing, and it's all one shot. It's very well timed.
It's a interesting building as well, like the layout.
Very maze-like. It's a lot of corners and stuff.
I buy it. It's an art gallery.
Sure, because I mean, it's not even rooms really, because in an art gallery you have a lot of fake walls to hang more paintings on, so
Exactly.
obviously they want a lot more wall space, so you end up with these really weird
So it's just strange dimensions.
layouts, yeah. It's funny actually, at one point she's looking at a map in the wall of the art gallery, like, with like a sort of, just a sign to sort of say where everything is, and I'm like, that looks much simpler than what we've just been walking around. I don't know if I buy this map.
Yeah, I was the same.
That map looks like a U shape, and I feel like what we've just went through has not been a U shape. So yeah, so you've got that. You've got a lot of sexual identity is a big theme of this movie as well, as it gets going. So it's funny. I think this, like, I think some of the subject matter in this, I you come into going, oh, is this going to be poor taste, especially since it's this old? And then I also wonder at the same time, like, how progressive was this movie in 1980 when,
No, no, I'm with you.
I feel like I wonder what the thinking was at the time by the casual public when they went to see this. Like, it
Yeah.
must have felt pretty shocking. I feel like half the shock factor is probably the subject matter rather than just the killing
Yeah,
itself.
you might be right because the killings themselves aren't, they're not that out there.
Yeah, they're kind of old school. You got the strings all playing as there's like slashing of a switchblade.
Yeah, it's classic, isn't it? Though
Yeah.
it's not doing anything out of the ordinary though.
No, it's well presented and directed, but it's not doing anything like super grisly.
Yeah, like if you've seen one film with a few murders in, the actual murders themselves wouldn't shock you that much.
Yeah, it's definitely the sexuality stuff that's shock. I think for the time period, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
These days, it's almost a kind of reverse thing where I'm just kind of worried they're going to have some really old school opinions on things where, oh, this might be cringy. I don't think it ever actually goes down that path too much, though. I could certainly see how
there are moments where it feels like, oh, this could be it. This could be where it dives off.
And there's also just like I think the core premise might bother people. Like if this movie was made and released now, I feel like the core idea of where it goes at the end might bother some people.
Definitely.
But I don't think it goes ridiculous in any one of its details, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but I can see why the core premise might you're kind of painting.
It's the sort of thing where I don't think this movie would be made now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Not in the same way, but I think it's one of those where for its time it was actually, like you say, it feels like it was kind of ahead of its time in most regards.
Yeah. So I think we're going to actually end the spoiler-free section here because
This is really hard to talk about, isn't it?
we don't have a whole lot to say without spoilers beyond that. I mean, I'll say some of the performances are really good. Like we said, it's really well shot. The suspense. De Palma is very good, and he's like prime, which he is kind of here. The way he does suspense and chase sequences and like running down into like a subway and like hiding from someone.
It's just expertly done, isn't it?
It's fantastic. It's definitely the centerpiece of the movie for me.
I love the music as well throughout.
Yeah, very, very old school. Lots of strings, lots of that kind of stuff. So full spoilers from this point on for Dress to Kill because it's impossible to do it otherwise. So we're in full spoilers. So the first thing I want to ask you is, as soon as you saw the killer, did you see who it was?
No.
It's interesting because I don't remember if I did the first time I watched it, but knowing where it goes this time, I can see it
really easily.
Immediately. I'm like, obviously that's who it is. Like,
yeah, no, I think they do a really good job though, like of hiding it. You never really linger on them for too long, like the killer. You never get a shot of just looking at them where you really get to see who it is. It's kind of always, a rush glance here. Here's a quick moment.
Yeah. I think so. So basically, the killer in this is transsexual and is a man dressed as a woman throughout the killings. And I think one of the smarter things it actually does is it's not actually that long past the kill because basically our main character dies in the big kill scene. That's why maybe compare it to Psycho as being too on the nose, but it's kind of the same thing.
I was thinking, I was like, you're a little bit but close to comfort there.
But that's the thing, though. It's kind of the same thing where you follow this person for about 40 minutes of the movie. She is the main character. It's her story. And then she's killed. And we switch to this other character played by Nancy Allen, who now becomes the main character because she kind of witnessed part of it.
Yeah.
And the killer's after her. But not too long past that, where we're in the investigation and we've got the cop, played by Dennis Franz, who I didn't know his name, but I know the actor because he's the airport cop in Die Hard 2, which is where I know him from. But he's a lot chubbier in that movie, so I saw him in this and I'm like, oh man, this was before he put on the donut pounds. But he's this really sleazy kind of, I mean it's 1980 but it was shot in like 79 I imagine, but he's this really sleazy 70s cop, like New York. He just has that feel to him.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
does a great job with it, doesn't he?
It's very quick into the movie where it actually raises the subject of transsexuals, because I feel like the killer does look a little bit, it's really like, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. It's Michael Caine, right? He's clearly much taller, and he's a bit bulkier. You can tell the sunglasses are hiding the eyes, and there's I feel like it does a really smart thing by bringing up the idea that no, the killer is transsexual, but we don't necessarily know that Michael Caine is the one doing it until the end. Like it plays that there's this other person, a patient of his named Billy, who because he even hears these messages on his phone because he's a psychiatrist, and he hears Billy say, "Oh, I took your razor and I want to kill again," and it plays it as if that this character Billy wants a sex change, but he won't sign off on it
Yeah.
as a doctor.
And I
So.
just you mentioned that sequence there. That was a really interesting split screen sequence that something you don't see very much.
I feel like De Palma. Do you know, there's one thing, and I'm sure I said this in Body Double, but I'm going to say it again here. There's one filmmaking technique that De Palma does that I do not like, and it's something that I think of him in almost him alone. Because I think of it in Carrie, I can think of it in Body Double, I can think of it in this, probably his other films, although they're a wee bit more less fresh in my mind. Is he does this thing where he uses these lenses where he can focus on 2 points at the same time, and you get these like shots where like person will be in the foreground here and then there'll be someone in the background here, but they'll both be in focus, and it just feels so unnatural.
It's so hard to. It's like, where am I supposed to look?
And you can actually see, if you're looking like at the dead space between them, you can actually see the line of focus change in the middle of the screen, and it really bugs me. Like, I hate that he does it. That's the one thing I don't like about his directing, is that he uses that.
It's distracting. That's fair.
It's distracting to me, but I mean, that's there. Because all I can think, see, whenever it happens, all I can think is, why can't one of them just be slightly out of focus? Movies do it all the time. It's fine. Like, it's fine. Just do it.
And I think it's he likes having the dual focal point, doesn't he? He likes to you don't quite know where to look. It's this distraction technique.
Okay. I think it just feels unnatural, so it bugs me.
Oh, it's unnatural. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not. I think that's supposed to be the point of it.
Okay, I'll buy it in this one, but I won't buy it maybe in, say, Carrie, when it's just in that, like, in the classroom and you see.
I think it works in his thrillers.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Especially in this one, because you're dealing with someone with two identities. Because this is the thing. I think this is the clear thing to mention here, is that when it turns out to be Michael Caine, it's not just that he wants to be a woman. It's actually like a split personality. And one is the woman and one is him. And the one that's the woman wants a sex change, but Michael Caine's side of it, I should say Dr. Elliot, not Michael Caine, but he wants to not do it, so he's like stalling it every chance he can get. So what we find out at the end is that whenever he gets aroused by a woman, that kind of triggers the other personality, Billy, to come out, and that's when she goes on a killing spree of some kind. And the idea is, early on in the movie, he's talking to the wife, Kate Miller, played by Angie Dickinson, who's the main character for the first chunk of the movie, and she's in therapy with him, and she's like talking about how her husband's not good in bed, and she even starts asking all these questions like, "Oh, are you attracted to me? Would you like to sleep with me?" Which I thought was very forward, by the way. That was a very forward statement to say to someone.
It was, yeah, especially to your therapist.
And he just without a beat goes, "Yes, of course, but I won't because I'm married and because of this." And I'm like, okay, very formal, but very blunt about it. He's like, "Yeah, I absolutely would screw your brains out, but I am married, so."
Yeah, no, it was an interesting approach. I really like the stuff that goes on with him. The lives, we talk about how he's not aware of things. So, she's killed with this razor, and he's like, "Oh, my razor's gone missing," and he's remembering these like phone calls, and he's actually telling the police like, no, look, they've got my razor. We should, I kind of know who this is to some degree.
Yeah. That said, he doesn't quite tell the police though. He's very cagey about telling them details.
Yeah. He does kind of point out like someone's threatening me. This patient, and it's like then my razor's gone missing. I think it might be them, but he has no idea that it's him, of course.
Yeah, seemingly not. But the other therapist he goes to talk to, he tells that to, and that therapist knows that this is both him. And you can kind of tell that later on in the movie when he brings it up, and you're like, "Oh, he knew during that scene." He's like, "Wait, you're telling me that your other personality is killing people? This is, bit dangerous."
Yeah.
And that's obviously the reason why I say this. Like, I don't think it ever crosses any weird lines throughout the movie in an offensive way, like in each individual scene. But like I was saying earlier, I think the core premise that like the killer's a transsexual where the other person is killing people, I can see why that would be problemsome for a lot of people.
Just the idea of it paints, it just paints them in a bad light. It's the same reason people don't like movies, mentally ill people being killers in horror films.
Yeah, exactly.
It's some of these things where no, it was a staple for a long time, but you just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, especially like we say, this was 1980. Like maybe when people weren't as informed about these kind of things, like maybe this would have been even more damaging at the time when Like, at least
No.
now I feel like, there'd be a fuss on the internet and be like, oh no, this is damaging and this is that. People would be talking about it. And
Whereas at the time, people might have thought, "Oh, all transsexual people are like this."
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, that's the image that people are scared of these movies putting across.
yeah, and I think that would be a fair complaint to make. I think. As a movie on its own, though, taking that out of it and just sort of enjoying it for the thrill that it is, it mostly works quite well. Especially once it becomes more clear that it's a split personality, where it's. I mean, I guess that's tapping into the mentally ill thing as well. Actually, now that you
It is.
bring
It
that
is. Yeah. I
up.
mean, I guess the only other thing I'd really hold against it in that sort of aspect is it does seem kind of racist. Because there's the one bit, it's like the only bunch of black characters
Oh right,
who
yeah.
immediately try and attack her.
I didn't realize that was a different point. I thought you were like just talking about
Oh, no,
him being
no.
mentally ill. I'm like, why is that racist? But you're right now. You're right. I know what scene you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, this feels weird.
Yeah, it's when Nancy Allen, she thinks she's realised she's been chased by the killer, and she runs down to the subway, and this just group of black guys just kind of starts harassing her, and then for no reason starts to chase her, and it's probably hunting her on the
Chase
train.
her down the train, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of. I don't want to just say product at the time. I feel that's a really easy cop out. Like,
Yeah.
it's the sort of thing like this would raise a lot of eyebrows now. But it's one of these things where you're watching an older movie, you just kind of have to take it for what it was at its time, and sort of.
No, it is. It's always one of these things with older movies, isn't it? It's there. You can't change it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So no, I agree with that. That did stick out to me actually when that scene started. I'm like,
Yeah, it
wait,
was kind of really blatantly awkward.
yeah, especially since there's no other black characters or even any non-white characters in the rest of
Yeah.
the movie. Like,
Well, no, that's not true. There is the security guard on the train, who basically just brushes her off.
oh, you're right. Yeah, there's I think it's actually a policeman rather than a
Is
security
it police-
guard.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. He just brushes her off and doesn't care.
yeah.
So
Not helping really, is it?
not helping much now. So yeah, you have this twist in it. I like all the investigative stuff because you have Kate's son after she dies. Like we find out he's a bit of a tech whiz. He's this prodigy son. He's like 17 years old or whatever. He's in high school, but he's really good at building things. And he like rigs like an 8mm camera to take photos every 10 seconds outside the Michael Caine's office to try and catch the killer.
Watches, and kind of like writes down how long it takes them to come out, and it's like, well, the longest one's 8 seconds. So he sets it for every 4 seconds.
Yeah. But
I actually really liked his character.
I liked his character a lot too. I liked his partnership with Nancy Allen's character, Liz. 'Cause she's a prostitute. She's an escort, more specifically, sort of higher class escort, and that's why she's at a hotel or this apartment building when the first character gets killed, and it's actually in the end of the train sequence that Peter ends up saving her. He shows up and helps.
Yeah.
And just before she's about to die, and that's how they kind of come together. And he goes and stays with her for a little bit, and like they form a plan and try and figure things out.
It's part of why I prefer the second half. I think both of these are more interesting characters. I like their dynamic and the relationship together. And I do like that it keeps it connected to the first half. The first protagonist was still connected through that story.
Yeah, they've got a good partnership. I like the dynamic it has because she is typically, and like every other character, the cop should constantly makes references to her being a whore because of what she does, and there's this interesting dynamic of innocence almost because she's with this teenage kid who doesn't see her that way, even though arguably a teenage kid more than anyone his hormones should be going into overdrive, but it actually seems kind of sweet. They're just kind of nice to each other.
Yeah, he's too busy grieving to think about this.
He doesn't expect anything from her, and she if you feel this is the first guy she spoke to in a long time who wasn't trying to get into her pants.
Yeah, there's a question, that Michael Caine asked us, like, well, do you sleep with anyone, not for money, just because? And she's like, well, yeah, if I want to, if I feel like it, if it's the right person.
Yeah. What's funny actually is at the end of the movie, after everything goes down, like we have this scene where Peter and Liz meet up, and it's like, oh, okay, that's all over and done with. Now what we're going to do now? And he basically says, oh, you can come live with me for a while. Like, my dad's out of town. Or my stepdad's out of town.
Stepdad, yeah. He makes a point of correcting that like 6 times.
You can come stay with me. I'd like the company. And I'm like, okay. And we kind of see from the last scene when she wakes up from the nightmare that, oh yeah, it's just purely innocent. She's just on the parents' bed while he's off in his own bed. But it's just like, There's something really surreal about asking an escort to come and stay with you for
There
however
is,
long when you're that
yeah.
age.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? I really like that nightmare sequence. I thought it was really, inventive with the shoes.
Oh yeah, it was beautifully shot, wonderfully suspenseful.
Hmm.
I do have a slight problem with it existing though.
Oh no, that's fair.
Like,
I like what it
yeah,
is.
in itself, it's fantastic. But I think at that point, I was like, okay, I thought the movie was over. Why? What are we doing now?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think honestly, I think they'd filmed that at some point earlier in the movie,
Really?
in an earlier draft of the script, and they were like, well, we don't want to put it to waste.
Yeah, maybe.
That wouldn't surprise me.
We've had Nancy Allen do all this nudity in the shower. We should need to use it somewhere.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, the movie opens with Kate in the shower, fully nude, and we just like that's how the movie opens, with just her in the shower, like
Yeah.
sensually washing for a long time with this dreamy music playing, and
I kind of like how it bookends. One naked woman at the start, one naked woman at the end.
yeah, okay.
I mean, I wonder if that's part of the reason for the nightmare sequence. It was supposed to be this symmetrical, this idea that
Yeah,
she's
maybe.
almost replacing the mother figure in his life.
And that was
Kinda,
and it's worth mentioning that at the start was also a dream.
yeah,
Both the start and the end were a dream sequence. Yeah. Um, yeah, I could see that. And obviously, you've got all these themes of like sexual risk and danger, and that's
mm,
what Kate wanted to do, and it kind of led to her death, even though it wasn't the sex itself. Although there's an interesting little tidbit before she leaves the guy's apartment after she's had sex with him, that she finds a medical like bill or receipt for saying that he had a venereal disease.
yeah. That never. I thought that was going to be something that it did something with. Then it's never brought up again.
Yeah, and well, she died, so it didn't really matter.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it feels like that was everything else that happened up to that point still worked in service of where the rest of the movie went.
Mm.
That bit seemed like information that should come up again somehow for some reason, but it never did.
No, that's true. Um, I guess it's just another sign first. Oh, you took too much of a risk here. You're doing something
Yeah.
dangerous for the thrill of it without really thinking about it or whatever.
Yeah. And I think also on top of that, I guess it's supposed to really sell the idea that we're not supposed to see this twist coming, that she's going to die. It's really building like,
Oh,
hey,
it's
here's
setting
some
up.
things to
Yeah,
explore.
it's
Yeah.
setting more plot up, and then yeah, so you really think she's not. Because I think even once she's been stabbed a few times, you think, oh, she's still alive. She's still like sort of grasping for help. Which, by the way, that scene in the elevator when she's being killed, Nancy Allen like almost is in the elevator, and it's like she's going in slowly. You see the blade coming from behind the door because Michael Caine's hiding up against the against the
Yeah.
buttons, and she sees him in the mirror, which is a repeated thing again at the end in the dream sequence. You see the reflection, so she knows he's there. That's good stuff.
It is.
It's all really well shot. Uh, you also have this weird thing where when she's on the run before she goes into the subway, she's in a cab ride, and she's like, "Hey, there's someone following me. Can you lose them?" And he doesn't quite deliver, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't deliver, so let me take you out to dinner or something." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." But when she runs off, like he actually stays around and helps and like trips up the killer before he leaves.
Floors him with the door.
Yeah. No, I think I think when you look at it's again going back to the whole idea of like dichotomies. Like you have this bored housewife who wants the riskier stuff, and then you have an escort who's essentially always doing risky, kinky stuff. Like so they both start in opposite directions, and they both kind of go the opposite way throughout the course of the movie. You have
Yeah.
one character who's feeling repressed, and you have the other one who's constantly ridiculed and commented on, and like, oh, you're a whore this, you're a whore that.
I think they literally they swap places because the first one she goes in and she kind of like loses herself and she does all these things, whereas the second one she talks about how of course she does all these things. It's it's every day for her, but then by the end she's literally in she's in the mother's bed.
Hmm.
Like that's like they literally swap places for the end of the movie.
Yeah. Do you think there's any way to connect that to the themes of the killer and the themes of Michael Caine's character and the idea of two personalities? Do you think it's saying anything about maybe being comfortable with your sexuality?
Yeah, balance perhaps.
Yeah.
The idea that these are they're two sides to people, but you're more comfortable once you accept it, and
Yeah, I mean, it could be an idea of that if you're too extremely in one direction or the other, especially with the killer, the idea that there's one side completely opposed to it and the other side's completely for it. So you have this clash and it causes all these problems. Whereas,
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't know I don't know how you reach a middle ground with what those two sides want. In this case specifically, but
no, I think in that case it's more about creating a dialogue. A compromise, almost, accepting who they are. Because if they accept who they are, they don't need to kill. That urge is never there.
Yeah. Yeah, and if Kate just spoke to her husband about her problems, about the sex life being boring, that would have went a vastly different way.
It would, yeah.
And I guess it's a small touch that as Peter keeps pointing out, as a stepdad, she's remarried already.
Yeah, and the doctor, the therapist, does tell her to just have you tried talking to him? Have you told him that you don't like this? Like, it's pretty good advice that he's given her.
Yeah, it's actually pretty decent advice. Yeah, unfortunately for her at this point, it's too late. She's already aroused him, and that
yeah.
That's the doom. Yeah, because then the other side gets jealous, or not jealous, but enraged that it's enforcing his masculinity. This was the exact. Phrase.
Yeah, because you have that sequence on the TV interview, don't you?
Well, you have the scene on the interview, but you also have the other therapist at the end after they've caught him. Oh, yeah. Well, he's dead, actually. No, he's not dead. They've caught him. Yeah. He's not dead because we have the... Well,
yeah.
He's in Belle Reve, but the escape scene's not real. And I'm glad the escape scene's not real because it looked very kind of, I don't know, comical... Not
too
realistic.
Easy. Yeah.
Well, it was too easy, but just the design of the prison and the way you had all these other inmates watching over a balcony,
cheering him on.
Yeah, it felt like a dream almost. So I'm glad it turned out to be one, and it was just her freaking out about it. But yeah, so you have this scene with the other therapist, and he explains all this stuff. He's like, and he probably goes through the psychology of it about how anything that made him feel more masculine and enforced that side of him, she wanted to lash out and kill. That was the core idea.
Yeah, and to go back to the idea of balance and compromise, more by accepting that that's not who he was, and he was doing this almost out of spite to prove. It's the same way. To go back to that TV interview, she's saying as a man you become these really macho to kind of prove that you're not.
Yeah, because the transsexual on TV has been asked oh, you had a very masculine job, if you want to put it that way. Is that abnormal? And she's like, no, that's actually really... A lot of the transsexuals I know had really masculine jobs before.
Yeah, and it's this idea of, it's almost like a phase of denial, to prove that you're not that. So you go over the top in the other direction. And I think he does the same here, where, but it just reverses and turns into killing.
Yeah, a much more extreme...
Yes.
Lens to do it, yes, of course.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons that I don't think the film is unfair with its subject matter, because it's only this one individual that we see do these things. We have the interview on the TV, and it's like, well, no, she's a perfectly reasonable person, adapted to life, and you're talking about all these other transsexuals who are, they're fine, they're not going around killing people.
Oh, sure.
So it makes it very clear that it's this one specific person not being able to deal with themselves and who they are that's causing this, not not transsexuals as a whole.
Oh yeah, I think logically that tracks. I still think that there'd be a problem with the reception.
I agree, but I do appreciate that it makes a point of showing that in the movie as well, rather than this just being in a vacuum and being the only transsexual in the movie.
Oh sure, yeah, but I think even at the time, I don't think everyone would have picked up on that.
Probably not.
I don't think most average public leave remembering that TV interview. They leave remember deranged killer trying to slash people.
No, that is fair.
So yeah, you have Peter and Liz who form all these kind of plans, and eventually, okay, we want to steal his address book so that we can see who his last appointment was, or his appointment book, and see who this last person was that came out. And they
I like how they never kept going through the photos to see when he left.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't. Yeah,
it's just like, oh no, that was the last person to leave, so must be her.
Yeah, it's kind of an honest mistake. They kind of assume it's not him.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. But they basically have this thing where she's like, okay, I'm going to go in, and she basically tries to seduce him and try and distract him with sexuality to go in, rummage through his files and stuff when he's not looking. Although little does she know that that's actually what's going to make him hostile.
Yeah, it really backfires as a plan, doesn't it?
Yeah. And there's also this little twist where there's another blonde woman kind of following her around, and she's a detective trying to like keep an eye on her. But
I really like the one, talk about where she's getting chased by the black guys, and you see this other blonde woman kind of as she gets on the train, and they're coming towards her, and she talks to the police, go, they're out there. You actually see this other woman just like charge through them and take them out of the way and move them on up to the other end of the carriage.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like that because you've got Peter out in the rain with the binoculars. So again, it's really suspenseful. The way it's intercutting between that and him and everything that's going on. I think that's the movie's biggest strength, is how it deals with suspense, how it deals with the actual build up of like the moments of the kills. There's like, I'd say maybe like 3-4 standout sequences which make the movie. Like, that's why it was worth watching. Were those, not that the rest of it was bad, but those are the
that elevate it above. Just being okay, this is good.
Exactly. But yeah. So, like I say, I really like the Peter and Liz characters. Like, their bond and friendship, once they actually start to like come together and start investigating stuff in the second half of the movie, is where it really kind of finds its heart, I guess. Because up until this point, it is really sleazy. It is really dark subject matters.
Yeah. And I think outside of the the suspense stuff, I think they are the best part of the movie. Them together.
They are, and maybe it's saying something that the heart of the movie comes from a pair of characters where there is no sexual relationship, or even a hint of it, really.
No, it's the hints are. Oh, there could be, because they like you say, it's a teenager and a prostitute. It's like, okay, he should be interested.
Yeah, but there actually never is. There's never even like a moment where he like catches himself looking at her in a way like that.
Not at all.
There's never any of that. And maybe that's saying something. Like they're just kind of comfortable with each other and who they are, and there's no.
Also, one of the funniest sequences of the movie.
Go on.
Is when she's telling him about transsexuals and explaining it. They take the hormones, and she's talking about these operations on the penis and stuff, and there's these old women in the background.
This is the scene at the end before he invites her to live with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know why suddenly there's this comedy scene, but there's this old woman just sitting behind him over his shoulder, listening to all of this conversation.
She looks horrified, and it is glorious.
And she goes into, she's like, yeah, and they like split the penis apart and like make an artificial vagina out of it, and I'm like, and this woman's just like wiping her lips. She just finished her lunch, and she's like, will you shut up, please?
It's so good.
It is really funny. I'm not gonna lie. It was a funny scene.
Just a bit of light relief at the end. It's like, all right, killer's caught. We can relax and have some fun.
Yeah. But no, I think that's what makes it work. Really,
yeah.
Is their bond and the suspense stuff, and there you go. That's your movie. Anything else you want to discuss?
No, I think we've covered why at least I like the second half a lot more.
Yeah, I'd say though the first half still like I
think the first half's good, and I was enjoying it. But it was when it got to the second half and things started to come together, I was like, okay, I really like this now.
The chase in the art gallery is particularly good. The way it's filmed, she comes out in the steps and the guy's like holding her glove out the window. All that stuff. Also, speaking of comedy, the cab driver, like, because they're basically going at it in the back of the cab, and the guy's just like, and he's sort of looking behind them. I don't know. It's amusing stuff, but again, she leaves her panties are left in the cab, and it's almost like she left a lifeline. Not that I'm saying panties are lifelines, but just in terms of representing something, like she left a life behind there, and there was no coming back. And even if she wasn't killed, there was no coming back in the sense that she's now changed because now she's had a taste of this life. And
she's gone and done this instead of gone home and spoken to her husband like she should have done.
Which is worth mentioning, she does call her husband when she's still at the guy's house. Assuming to make up an excuse and say, "Oh, I've been out doing this. I'll be home." Whenever, but she can't speak. She's too kind of like guilty and ashamed, perhaps, and she hangs up the phone without saying anything. And maybe she realised she has crossed the line, and maybe that's the point of finding the medical bill. It's like, oh crap, I've crossed the line, and now I can't.
Something permanent she can't come back from.
Yeah, she can't take it back because she's at the very least she's going to have to not have sex with her husband because she can't pass this on to him, and B, like, go to the doctor for this, and and she may have to explain why she has this if she can't keep this quiet long enough, and so on.
It's the idea that this just doing what she wanted here has permanent repercussions, and and she has to live with that now. Well, I mean, she doesn't, but
Yeah.
the movie doesn't tell you that at this point.
And again, comparing her to Nancy Allen's character, Nancy Allen starts off as a loner, but by the end of the movie, she has a family member, she has a friend,
Yeah.
but she didn't at first. So I think there's a lot of interesting things going on there with how you treat sex and how that splinters around you and how that maybe affects your lifestyle and who you can be around.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be a recurring theme for De Palma, doesn't it?
Like I say, he likes his sleaze. He's a very sleazy director.
He is, and this is the thing. I think you can look at it and just say, "Oh, it's just sleazy." But I think a lot of it, there is, some of it maybe is just too much, just for the sake of it. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the core ideas, I think, are well worth exploring in the aspect that he does.
Yeah, he's exploring things. He's exploring.
There's a point to what he's saying. It's not just here for the sake of it. There is a purpose. There is a message.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, that is Dress to Kill. I guess we'll rate it out of 10. So, what would you rate Dress to Kill?
I'll give it a solid 8. I think like could be a 7.5, but then those certain sequences just elevate it enough.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with solid 8. I gave Body Double a higher score. Body Double was an 8.5 or a 9, and I stand by that. I think Body Double is the better film.
I agree.
But Dress to Kill is pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we say, good characters, good suspense. Maybe the start's a little bit slow. You can maybe criticize it for that.
Yeah, I think though once it gets past the first 15 minutes, maybe I think it's really well paced and builds nicely.
Yeah, and yeah, admittedly, the fact that it turns out to be a dream kind of alleviates it a bit. But I do like when I watch it and I've forgotten there's this dream sequence at the end, which is both the hospital escape and the sort of the kill in the shower where he comes for Nancy Allen. I feel like that. It almost feels like we're
why
done.
Does it exist?
Yeah, you're like we were done, and this feels like tacked on kind of thing.
I mean, the only way I can maybe think about defending it is we were talking about how we were talking about the venereal disease stuff, and it's like, there's these permanent repercussions regardless of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And for her here at the end, it's like, yeah, she's made her choices, she's come out the other side, but she still has to live with the memories of what she's gone through.
Okay.
So it's still going to be haunting her, even though she's moved on, she's past this, it's still going to be there in her head.
I guess the critique is we ended this sort of like more downbeat moment because she wakes up from a nightmare, and Peter's there to comfort her, but it's still kind of a dark kind of.
It is.
It's not. It's a sadder ending than maybe you were.
Yeah, I feel like because before all this this dream sequence starts is the moment where he's going, "Oh, do you want to come live with me?" I think that's probably a better ending.
Yeah, probably isn't. Maybe if you wanted, you could have had like Michael Caine in the insane asylum and like just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, just like an epilogue sort of thing. Yeah.
But here, so there you go. That is Dress to Kill. So some flaws, some things that maybe don't work especially well. Maybe could be a bit tighter, but really solid for all the reasons we said. So good stuff. So that is this episode of In Flux. We will be back next week with another murder.
It is. That was not intentional, though.
It was not intentional. But I won't spoil what it is. But before we go, I should announce a couple of things before I do the plugs. First of all, the vote for Patreon for next month is up, and that is, obviously you'll have all November to vote, and then the movie will be done in December. And of course, this is the $5 patrons and up. The options. So the theme for this coming vote is space movies. And now you're thinking, wait, it's December. Shouldn't it be Christmas movies? We considered that at first, and then we tried to think of 4 Christmas options that we were happy with, and we really couldn't get to any. Partly because Connor's weird and doesn't like a lot of Christmas movies.
I just don't. I'm not big on Christmas in general.
Yeah,
it just doesn't do it much for me.
He was vetoing a lot of options. So instead, we said Star Wars is coming out. We'll do some space movies, and we both like that kind of thing. So that works better. So the options for this vote are Forbidden Planet, Galaxy Quest, The Last Starfighter, and Jupiter Ascending.
I like how you couldn't get through that last one with a straight face.
I had to put in a joke option. Do you know, honestly, my idea briefly was that maybe because I had The Last Starfighter, the joke would be that I just picked 4 movies with the word star in it somewhere. But it would be like not all space. Like I'd pick like A Star Is Born would be one of them, and then like I don't know, Jesus Christ Superstar would be another, another one. Like just anything with star in the title.
Maybe things with space in the title.
Maybe we'll do that next Star Wars. Now it's funny actually. I was thinking as I was doing this, I'm like, wait, why aren't we doing any Star Wars movies before this one? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not ready to do them yet. Obviously we're going to work our way through the other Star Wars movies at some point. It's inevitable that we're going to do it.
That and we're just gonna argue, so there's no point.
On the prequels
not yet.
especially.
Yeah.
On the prequels especially, I am coming.
Yeah, and there. I'm not saying the prequels are good movies. I'm on record saying that multiple times. But there are aspects I will defend, whereas people obviously not recognise a single aspect as worth defending.
Some good actors in it, I'll give you that. But the basically me coming to argue about the prequels is me coming with the equivalent of a nuclear arsenal to combat you with.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, you have all the ammunition.
you know you're in the losing battle over this one.
I do. I'm not disputing that. I don't know if I have the energy for that right now.
Oh dear.
Need to build up to that.
Also, I'll take every fibre of my being. If we're going to do the prequels at some point, maybe
You have to
next
actually
year,
watch through them.
to watch them, like, but I'll have that temptation. Instead of actually watching it, do I just watch the Plinkett reviews of them instead? Because that'll be more entertaining.
More entertaining, but you need to form your own opinions.
I think there'll be a lot of overlap regardless. Let's be honest here.
Probably, but want to see how much. You never know. You might notice something.
I might have.
Look, I'm not saying they're good film. I have legitimate criticisms.
Well, I'm just but we're not doing that this year.
We'll get there.
I'm not ready to do that yet.
I feel like we can't do those all in 1 month as well. They need to be spaced out a bit, just so because otherwise you might kill yourself. You have to do all 3 prequels in like the space of 2 weeks.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, I might be in a rough spot if I have to do a lot of Star Wars movies back to back. But we'll see. We'll see about maybe doing some next year when the Han Solo movie's coming out, or maybe when Episode 9's coming out the year after that. I don't know. But we'll
just sprinkle them in when we feel like it.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. So that's the vote. That was the first thing I had to announce, was the vote for next month. So $5 patrons and up can vote on that, and they've got all of November to do it, and we'll do the winner next month. Also, the winner last month, which was a Hitchcock vote, was Rear Window. So you can look forward to that sometime this month. Cool. So that's cool. So the other thing I've got to announce though is that we actually started something similar for Screams After Midnight, but now there's going to be one for 121 in Flux. And this is also for $5 patrons and up. It's called The Vault. And what this is you can submit, patrons that is, can submit movies for us to watch. And it'll go into a suggestion list. And from time to time, we will pick one from that list to do. When maybe, like I say, we alternate between my pick and Connor's pick, maybe we'll have 3 in the rotation. It'll be my pick, Connor's pick, and then one from the list.
To be honest, we made a big list at the start of the year, when just before we started this podcast. We're not that far off getting towards the end of that list as it is anyway.
Yeah, we're about 2/3 through that list, so this would help our schedule a little bit. But yeah, it's just a way for you guys to have the option of just suggesting movies that you think we'd actually like, and or maybe not like, as the case may be, if that's how you want to play it. But so they might go on a vote.
In my experience, that's what they usually do.
They might go on a future vote for Patreon, or they might just be picked to be done occasionally. There's no limit to how many you can do, or how many submit, or how often you can submit. If you want to submit 20 movies one day and then 20 the next, you can do that. They'll go on the list, and the list is viewable for patrons as well. There's a link to go and look at it and see it. There's nothing there yet because we've just started it, but if some people want to submit, I know the Screams After Midnight list, the Crypt we're calling that, is already at like 28 movies. Yeah. So
and also we won't necessarily be doing them in order. Just because we go, we're doing one off this list, it doesn't mean we'll do number 1 on the list.
No, because they're in alphabetical order. So yeah, obviously we're not going to just do that. Otherwise, we'd just always be doing movies
just
again.
Just make it clear, when you have a numbered list, sometimes there's an assumption that you'll just work through it.
Oh sure, yeah. They'll be randomly picked. It'll be whatever one speaks to us at any given point, or speaks to me, and then Connor can just take it, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. That's just usually how these things go.
Well, to be fair, it's their submitted list, so anything I pick is valid from that list.
It is. I can veto your picks.
Yeah, their picks not so much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that was the two things to announce: was the vote for the next month on Patreon, and also the new Patreon feature for $5 tier and up is the Vault, which you can submit movies. Now, obviously, that is basically anything. Obviously, we have the right to refuse something if it's something that. And I'm thinking very extreme things here, like a Serbian film, like where I just don't want to watch that ever. But like 99.999% of movies like are eligible, except of course horror films. Because if you want a horror film suggestion, you go and put that on the Crypt on Screams After Midnight. We have a whole show dedicated to horror movies.
That's it. That's the one thing that you're not allowed to submit. Horror movies.
But
So
everything else is fair game on in Flux.
basically, put the Star Wars prequels on, so Peter has to watch them. Put the Lord of the Rings movies on, so Peter has to sit through those again. Specify extended editions.
I just said we'd probably do the prequels at some point. That's a waste of a suggestion. It's a waste.
All right, but the Lord of the Rings extended.
We are never doing those movies. I am never sitting through 4 hours of one of those again. Ever.
Only one of them's 4 hours.
3 hours 52 minutes is still 4 goddamn hours.
Yeah. It's great. Love those movies.
So anything else I need to plug or recommend or suggest? I don't know. I can't remember. Anything else happened recently?
Come join the Facebook group. Just search Mild Fuzz and tell Peter his shit.
Guys on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com, as I've been talking about, /mildfuzztv, and you can get all that stuff. There's links, of course, to that and stuff in the description and in the corner of the video, as per usual. But otherwise, that is us. So, like, subscribe, all that as well. I forgot to say that. I usually say that. So,
yeah.
But that's us. So thank you once again. Keep watching movies, guys. We'll see you next time.